Okay, so we're going to continue this. So, first thing you do is subtract. So we know that 17 minus 12 is 5. Now we have to use the sign of the larger number. What is the larger number in this problem? Is it 17 or is it 12? The correct answer is 17. So because 17 is positive, we know that this answer is going to be positive as well. Okay, and now if you don't know how to subtract across, we can do it up and down. So we know that 7 minus 2 is 5, and 1 minus 1 is 0. So you can either keep the 0 or leave the 0, but either way, that's the answer. Okay, let's move on. Let's do a fraction. So we have 1/2 plus a negative 1/2. Okay, now from the previous lessons, we have learned that when you have the same denominator, you just bring it over, you keep it. So let's start off by bringing over our denominator. Now, this rule tells you to subtract, okay? So we have the denominators done, so let's focus on the numerators. We have to subtract the numerators. So we break it over. Okay? And we know that 1 minus 1 is 0 over 2. And you get 0. Any number over 2, any number underneath 0 is going to be 0. So let me clarify that. So if we have 0 divided by 2, the answer is going to be 0. If we have 0 divided by 6, the answer is going to be 0. But what if we have 6 divided by 0? 0 is not divisible by any number. So when you have that case, you can put this symbol right here, which means no set, or you can write undefined, which I don't think we'll be covering undefined numbers just yet, but if we were to, this is how you would do it. Okay, let's move on to number 8. We have 3 over 2 plus a negative 1/2. Now let's look at this again, guys. The denominator is the same, so you bring it over. Now the numerator, we're left with 3 plus a negative 1. What does your rule say? Your rule says to subtract. So we know this is going to be 3 minus 1. And when you simplify it, you get 2 over 2, which is 1. Okay, now let's do 3 more. So we're on number 9. We have 3/2 plus a negative 1/3. All right, now from the previous lesson, you learned that when you have 2 different denominators, you want to provide a common denominator. So our common denominator here is going to be 6. So now you think, okay, well, what can I multiply 2 by to get 6? You multiply it by 3. Whatever you multiply the bottom by, you have to multiply the top by. And we know that 3 times 3 is 9. Now let's move on. Let's not worry about the positive and the negative. Let's move on to this side. So you say, what can I multiply 3 by to get 6? You multiply it by 2. Okay? Now, whatever you multiply the bottom by, you multiply the top by. So we're going to do 1 times 2, which gives you 2. Now we have to say, okay, well, what are we doing here? You have to subtract because that is what it says to do first. So if we subtract, we know that we put that right there because we're subtracting, right? And so 9 minus 2 is going to give us 7 over 6. Now, let's just say you don't like doing it that way and you want to do it this way. So what you can do is 3/2. I'm gonna rewrite it just in case you want to do it this way. Just do it whatever way feels comfortable for you. Okay, so we have the like denominator 6, multiply that by 3, we get 9. Now multiply this by 2, we get 2. Now we want to bring over both signs if you want to do it this way. If you do it this way, you still get the same answer. We know that when you are adding a positive with a negative, you subtract and take the sign of the largest number, which is what we just learned in the previous lesson. So 9 plus a -2 is going to give us 7. And 9 is the larger number, and it's also positive. So 7 is going to be positive. And then you bring over your denominator. Okay, let's do 2 more decimals. Let's do 10 and 11. So we have 0.5 plus a -0.3. Now, if you can add them straight across and you will get 0.2. I mean, you can subtract them straight across and you'll get 0.2. And then you take the sign of the larger number, which is going to be a positive, because 0.5 is bigger than 0.3, and your answer is going to be positive 0.2. Now, let's just say you want to work it up and down like I showed you. You do it the same way. Just remember, you're adding a negative number. That means you have to subtract it. So we're gonna ignore the positive, the addition sign here. We're just gonna focus on this negative. So when we do so, we know that 5 minus 3 is 2. Bring down your decimal. 0 minus 0 is 0. And that's how you do that one. All right, let's move on over here to number 11. We have 0.8 plus a -0.9. Okay, for this one, you do it the same way. We know that the first thing you have to do is subtract. When you subtract 0.8 from 0.9, you get 0.1. Now, you use the sign of the larger number. The larger number is 0.9, and it is negative. So you bring down your negative sign, and you have -0.1. That concludes this lesson. Now we're going to move on to how to add negative plus positive rational numbers.